Lesson 18, configure mobile OS security. Configuring mobile security involves several steps to safeguard your phone or tablet. For example, enabling a strong authentication, updating the software regularly, considering a reputable antivirus for Android only. Normally, you don't need antivirus for an iPhone. Be cautious about apps. The places where you download them specifically. If you root or jailbreak your phone, obviously you put that the security of the phone in danger. Managing app permissions, using secure Wi-Fi, that's really important too. And there are features like enabling remote wipes, so that if you lose or the phones is stolen, that you can do that. And also, for organizations using mobile device management and application management, it's also a must. So these are some of the features that we are going to talk and discuss in this lesson. So this lesson actually has this lesson actually has three objectives: configure mobile OS security, troubleshoot mobile OS and app software, and troubleshoot mobile OS and app security. And this is the first topic that we're going to discuss here. Screen locks in both the iPhones and the and Android devices are really important. You can configure the actually let me so in the iPhone, if you go to settings, right, and then you go to the Touch ID and passcode, there are several security features over here, starting obviously with the fact that you should have a PIN or a code in your phone. That's one of the most important things. You can choose when will the device be locked, and basically you can configure to either after several minutes or immediately. So if you're not using the phone, when do you want that device to be locked? If you're really concerned about security, you may want that device to be locked immediately. In most iPhones, it's been a while already, you can configure either a passcode, or you can configure fingerprint, or either face recognition. So whatever you feel comfortable with. There are other security features over here in the Touch ID and passcode. But one of the most important things to protect your phone is to make sure that you have a PIN, a code, and it is nowadays that PIN should be at least 6 characters. If you use a combination of letters and numbers, obviously in a phone, because you use it that much, and most people, a lot of people use only 4-digit code just for ease of access. But if you want to make it secure, then you really, I think that 4-pin is not enough nowadays. It all depends on how much you care about cybersecurity. But in case of an enterprise, most enterprises require that the PIN code be at least 6 characters at least, right? Here is a screenshot of an Android. The Android has, similar security features, not exactly the same thing, but on newer Android, they have a feature called Google Play Protect, which is really cool. It basically scanned the apps in your phone for any problem, an app that is not secure. So it's really cool stuff over there. Security update. So again, updating uh, uh, the software, the OS on your iPhones is extremely important. There are a lot of security issues that are resolved. Most security issues are resolved with an update. As soon as something comes on and there is a security issue, there is a bug or whatever, those companies, both Apple and Google and whoever makes an Android phone, they push that through the updates. So just making sure that the phones are up to date is a great thing. Another feature you can find on both the iPhone and on Android is the Find My iPhone or Find My Phone and Find My Device in Android. So basically meaning that if you lose your phone, if it's stolen, you can activate that feature and then try to locate the phone. And again, in both of them, you can use either fingerprint or you can use a facial recognition and that kind of stuff. So really, really important stuff. In the Android, you could also use some kind of like a pattern gestures to lock your phone. Okay. Fail login attempts lock out. So in both phones, in the iPhone, for example, you can configure so that, let's say that somebody find or steal your phone and they try to log into the iPhone, you can configure that after 10 fail login attempts, then the phone will be wiped out. Now, you got to be careful with that because if you have kids and you let them play with your phone, like a lot of parents let their kids use their phone. If your kid, even if you don't let them play, I mean, if they find your phone, they will try to log in. There's nothing sweeter to a small kid than finding an iPhone or a tablet, hanging around there. So they will try to break in or just to log in into the phone. And then if you have this fail login attempts at 10, if you have it configured so that the phone will be wiped out after 10 fail logins, then you could have your little ones delete everything on your phone. So you have to kind of it's a balance. Security it's a balance, right? And also what works for some people do not work for other. So it depends on your situation, but just be aware of those things. It is important that you explore the cybersecurity features on your phone, whatever it is that you have now. When you go to an enterprise, if you use that phone for business, the enterprise will have a policy with certain requirements that will be implemented. Okay. Mobile security software. Again, extremely important that the OS it's up to date. Both iOS and Android have regularly updates. One of the things that, and there is a discussion always about what is a more secure OS, whether iOS and Android. And one of the advantages of the iOS is that it's very locked in. It's only Apple. So Apple controls everything, right? So you don't have to deal with Android. There's so many different flavors and so many versions and that kind of stuff. And the company that make phones, they have like their own version that they modify because Android it's open source, so they can modify that. You don't have that with the iOS. So with respect to that, then the iOS is more secure than the Android in general. right? Because of those features. So you don't have to deal with so many versions. In with respect to the security in an enterprise, it is a lot easier to handle the iOS, right? Unless you tell your employees, well, we're going to use Android, but you can only use this version. And again, that won't work because everybody has a different vendor, right? With an iPhone, it's Apple, period, right? So there's a lot more control. When it comes to antivirus and anti-malware apps, um, the iPhone is pretty secure by design in the fact that you don't actually need an antivirus. There are antivirus and there are anti-malware apps, but to be honest with you, I've used iPhones for many, many years. I've never installed any antivirus and any anti-malware apps, right? Yes, it could be an additional layer of protection to the security of the marketplace, if you want to call it. But again, I don't not believe personally, I do not believe uh, that you need any antivirus on the iOS. There is antivirus for Android, depending on the flavor. It's more common to have an antivirus on an Android than on an iPhone. I think that one of the important thing is to monitor app behavior, right? And that's what they do. The antivirus software, they monitor the app behavior and also permission requests, because if a piece of malware or a virus get into your phone, that's what they try to do. They would try to modify the permissions and also it would be on some sort of malicious application, right? Same thing with firewall apps. Firewalls filter outgoing and incoming connections. Um, Also VPN-based filtering. Again, um, not very commonly used on the both the iOS and the especially iOS, not commonly used, but you could use it on Android if you wanted to. But again, there's all kinds of apps over there. It depends on your behavior, depends on what you do. But in general, not really as commonly used as it would be on, let's say, a laptop running Windows. So we talked a little bit about this Play Protect feature in Android. Really cool. It will scan your. Again, this is with newer iPhones, the newer iPhones. So it's a cool feature that will run regularly and scan your apps, and just in case there's some malicious apps running around. So those are really. But the bottom line is that one of the most important security things that you can do related to any phone, it's making sure that you have the software up to date. Okay. Enterprise mobility management, or MDM, as we usually just refer to it. So when it comes to an MDM, it's a way of basically, it's a management tool, right? It's a tool used by organizations to manage and secure devices like smartphones, tablets, and also laptops. Microsoft Intune is a popular MDM solution, and that's what the screenshot it's over there. But there are others available. So what are the main features? Well, main feature, first of all, the devices have to be enrolled. So MDM allows organizations to register the devices and to keep track of them. IT admins can set and enforce security policies on enrolled devices. This might include something like requiring a strong password, right? Requiring a six-digit code, encrypting the data, although in most iPhones, especially in the iPhone, the data is encrypted anyways, or restricting access to certain websites or apps. So you can basically restrict apps and websites. You could also use an MDM to, IDMs can be used to deploy and manage apps on devices. Rather than going directly into the App Store or Google Play and downloading the apps from there, you can have a store of curated apps, if you want to call it, and then, or just, company apps, especially if it's a phone that it's managed, that is provided by the company, right? So you can have company apps or just approved third-party apps. In case of a lost or a stolen device, an NDM allows IT to remotely wipe the device, right? Protecting sensitive corporate data to be exposed. MDMs can also ensure the devices meet security standards set by the organization. So very important. So how is Intune similar to other MDMs? Well, Intune offers all the core functionalities of an MDM solution, including, again, as I said, device enrollment and management, security policy enforcement, the app deployment and management, remote wipe capabilities, and all that kinds of stuff. So really is tough. Now, how does Intune then differentiate to other? Well, first of all, since it is a Microsoft product, Intune integrates seamlessly with other Microsoft services like Azure Active Directory and Microsoft 365. So this allows for a more, if you want to call it, unified experience for managing users and devices. Intune supports a wide range of platforms, including Android, iOS, Windows 10 and 11, Mac OS, and etc. So there are several MDM, but again, Intune it's very popular, and it's getting a lot of popularity lately. Okay. Mobile data security. Now, one of the most important features of mobile data security is device encryption. Both iOS and Android offer device encryption to protect your data, but there are some key differences in their approach. For example, iOS encrypt data on a file-by-file basis, what is called file-based encryption, or FBE. This means that individual files like photos, documents, and messages are secure with encryption keys. Another thing is that encryption is turned on automatically on iPhones and iPads with no user setup required. The file-based encryption, or FBE, is generally considered more secure than the full disk encryption, because even if someone gains access to the device, they won't be able to decrypt individual files without the encryption keys, right? And users have minimal control over which data gets encrypted or not. So those are the main benefits of an iPhone, the iOS. On the other hand, Android uses what is called FDE, or full disk encryption. As the name implies, the FDE encrypts the entire storage device. This means that all data on the device, including the operating system, apps, and user data, is encrypted. Now, encryption isn't always enabled by default on Android devices, especially depending on the flavor of the Android device. And that's one of the big differences, that in the iOS, it's always there. You don't have to do anything. In Android, you may have to go in and enable that. And think about it, unless you're tech savvy, normal users are not going to go and encrypt the devices, right? And users also may need to, so again, they may need to activate this manually, which is in setting, which is, I think that makes it a huge, it's a vulnerability, right? Because you depend on the users to do that. Unless, of course, you are on an enterprise and you use an MDM and you kind of force that encryption by default. Now, At the same time, a full disk encryption can offer slightly faster performance compared to the file-based encryption because the entire disk doesn't need to be decrypted every time that you access a file. So that's on the positive side, right? If the encryption key is compromised, all data on the device becomes vulnerable. So that's a weakness. In the iPhone, because every file by file is encrypted, there's no single file for the entire thing. So you may lose an access to a file, but there are thousands of files on the iPhone, right? So that's a key difference over there. Now, in recent developments, Android has improved this tremendously, and newer versions of Android are moving toward kind of like a hybrid approach that combines elements of both the file-based encryption and the full disk encryption. So it's a balance between security and performance, if you wanna call it over there. But in conclusion, so both iOS and Android offer device encryption for data protection. Again, iOS uses file-based encryption, which is considered more secure but offers less user control. Android traditional uses the full disk encryption, which can be faster but has potential security gaps, right? Although newer versions are adopting a hybrid approach. The best choice for you depends on your priorities between security and user control. Obviously, in an enterprise, nowadays security is most of the time wins, if you want to call it, right? Very important that you back up your application, that you back up your device, right? So if something happens to the device, you can go back and have access to your data. Okay. Another key feature of security, again, is the locator apps and the remote wipes, which you can implement it on a device-by-device basis, or you can implement this with an MDM. And the locator apps allows you to either play a sound, erase the device, or ring the device. There are different features depending on whether it is the iPhone or the app, but the whole idea is that it gives you the ability to locate. It gives you a map to. Sometimes it's just that you lost it. You don't know where you put it. Or now, if it's stolen, the person who was stole may try to, disable those things. But again, unless they have access to the device, they may not be able to. The only thing that they would probably do is just to turn off the device, right? Obviously, these apps won't work if the device is off. But as soon as they turn it on, if the device is connected to the internet, now what they're doing nowadays also is that they turn on the device and they just completely disconnect it. They won't connect it to a network until they break in and they get whatever they need, right? So that you cannot locate them. But when it comes to an enterprise, again, these are big features. Now, when it comes to the remote wipe, you can have a device wipe. Normally means that you wipe the entire device. You kind of factory reset the device. Everything is gone. In an enterprise wipe, you may be able to delete just only enterprise data. So let's say that your company allows you to bring your own device, like the BYOD, and you configure that phone to have access to the company email. Well, the only thing that belongs to the company is actually that email app. So an enterprise wipe will delete just the email app, but all the other stuff that is on the phone that belongs to you because it is your phone, then it is intact, right? So that's the main difference between the enterprise wipe and the device wipe or the reset. Okay. Internet of Things is a huge cybersecurity issue. Okay. Yes, we can automate things. It's we can automate our home. We can have smart hubs and smart speakers control, smartphone apps, smart devices, wireless mesh networking. So basically, meaning that it's a mesh. It's everything is connected. It's the Internet of Connected Things, if you want to call it, and it's really convenient. But again, there are a lot of security concerns, right? Um, a challenge is monitoring those devices and also patching. Um, Patching and monitoring the device is one of the biggest concerns about IoT, the Internet of Things. A lot of them come with weak defaults, sometimes weak passwords, and or everything that because some of them have I would say it's not easy to manage them. That's one of the most difficult things, right? People just get a device, they bring it on, they leave it as is, and obviously with the username, default username and password, and that could be a problem. Okay. Another not that necessarily the shadow IT comes in, not necessarily has to do with the Internet of Things, but another cybersecurity issue, we could say probably related to this, is the concept of the shadow IT, which refers to information technology resources that are used within an organization without the approval or knowledge of the central IT department. So every enterprise will have this IT department that should control and manage everything related to IT. But shadow IT basically means that um, employees could use cloud-based applications and productivity tools like Slack or Trello, right? Where they have company information and the IT doesn't know about it. So unauthorized file sharing devices like Dropbox, where employees could save files to their Dropbox and to their personal thing, company related stuff, or even on personal stuff to use for work purposes, right? When it comes to hardware, employees, for example, may bring their personal laptops or tablets or external storage devices for work activities. And then they have that work related on their personal devices. And that poses huge cybersecurity risk and also compliance, right? Which not necessarily the same, but they are related. Unapproved subscription services or online tools used to complete tasks. Everything nowadays, everything it's a service on the web. So you can register with your own account, and then now you have a personal account, and you use it for company data. Now, why does shadow IT exist? There are several reasons why employees might resort to shadow IT. Um, Sometimes the official IT department may have a slow or bureaucratic process for approving new software or hardware requests, leading employees to find workarounds. Sometimes to go through IT and get everything approved, and you need to get approval. You need to buy it. Then once it comes in, it needs to be configured. And sometimes there's some, just to get a piece of hardware like a server to be configured, it takes weeks and months. Where nowadays in the cloud, you can have that in minutes, right? So that's one of the main reasons. Now, the lack of desired features, for example, the centrally approved tools may not have the features or functionality that employees need to be productive, and they may find those things in other services out there. Um, Employees might simply be unaware of the IT resources already available to them. And sometimes they just want to go and do it on their own. Cloud-based tools and personal devices can sometimes be more convenient or user-friendly than the company-approved options, right? Now, there are many security risks involved in shadow IT, right? So while shadow IT can address, let's say, a temporary need or improve productivity, it can introduce a significant security risk for the organization. Um, for example, unauthorized cloud storage or personal devices can be vulnerable to hacking or data leaks, exposing sensitive company information. Unapproved software or services may not have the same security protocol as IT-approved options, right? Shadow IT can make it difficult for organizations to comply with data security regulations. And there's a whole range of cybersecurity issues that are related to with shadow IT. But again, it's one of those things that you have to be aware of, and it happens more often than we would like, we would want, right? All right, so this is the end of this first objective for lesson 18. Here we review mobile OS security. We talked about the importance of having the screen locks, having a code, and that code should be at least 6 digits long nowadays. We talked about the importance of mobile security software, meaning that the software should be up to date, that you should only install software from approved channels like the Apple Store and the Apple Play, the Google Play Store, and the Google Play, right? So installing software out of those channels can put the device in danger. Now, obviously, the only way that you can install software from, let's say, from the iPhone is if you jailbreak the phone. And then if you jailbreak the phone to use software from third-party vendor, obviously, that is a huge cybersecurity risk. And most enterprises have ways of limiting that and stopping people from doing that. We also talked about MDM, or the Enterprise Mobility Management, which is, again, as the name implies, is software that allows you to manage all the mobile devices, including phones, tablet, laptops, where basically the devices are enrolled in this software, and then they can be controlled. They can be tons of things, they can be limited so that they can be a lot more secure. When it comes to mobile data security, one of the most important thing is encryption. We said that the iPhones, with that respect, it's more secure than Android because uh, iOS phones are encrypting all the time without the user doing anything. In Android, there are different flavors, and sometimes encryption is only it's available after the user enables it, so that makes it weak. Also talked about locator apps and remote wipe. So if you use an MDM software, these are the kind of things that you can do. You can locate where the phones are. You can remote wipe the phones if they are stolen, right? So really important features. And finally, we talked about the Internet of Things, which make things convenient for most people, but when it comes to security, it is very challenging because it's difficult to monitor, because they have weak security defaults, right? So, and obviously those things pose a huge cybersecurity risks. Okay, so a lot of stuff that we need to be aware of when we have mobile devices, especially when we use mobile devices in our enterprise.